Om Shanti, everyone, and welcome back on the day 4 of 21 Days Go to Cleanse Tough Habits. Why are we calling these habits tough? It's because these habits we have been using for a very long time, actually, and as a result, we are finding it hard to get rid of them. But that is why we need determination, we need conviction, we need to be actually stubborn. And stubborn in the sense being stubborn on truth, being stubborn on knowledge, because that is the original sanskar, that is the original habit of every soul. The deep-rooted habit of every soul is strong willpower. So when somebody says that I don't have the willpower to do this or I don't have the willpower to do that, that's not true. That is the original nature of every soul. All we need to do is use that willpower. And the more we use that muscle becomes stronger. And so let's take a moment of silence. And in this moment of silence, we will take a look at the self. The true self, the king, the invisible observer, observing the mind and its games. We are checking, are we playing the game of life as a master, as a king, or as a victim? When we study law, then the soul studying law becomes a lawyer. When the soul in the body is studying medicine, it becomes a doctor, plays the role of a lawyer and a doctor. When the soul in the body is studying architecture, then plays the role of an architect. But when the soul is studying Raja Yoga, meditation, this study makes one the king of one's mind. Raja means king and yoga means union. Raja Yoga. To become the king of one's mind. Yoga with knowledge, connection with knowledge, and tomorrow we'll see connection with the Supreme. That makes one the king of one's mind. So how do we check? So the soul, the invisible scientist, uses the laboratory of the mind and experiments with spiritual knowledge. Experiments with focus and concentration. And checks, is one playing the game of life as a victim or as a master, a king? As a victim, the soul is asleep. Anybody says anything, it hurts. Even the nature, the weather, can have the influence on the mood. Situations have the power to make one happy or sad. That's the life of a victim, at the mercy of external stimuli. But when one is a master, then the outside weather cannot change the inner weather of happiness and joy. It could be dark outside, but the light is on inside. Others part and script and roll. Does not matter, because one knows the truth of the self and of the other, so can look behind the mask and focus on the eternal truth. As a king and a master of the mind, circumstances cannot change the stage of one's happiness, because one knows that it is my thought that will change the situation and not the situation will change my thought. What is the life we choose today? Ask yourself, want to be a master, a king, or do I want to live like a victim, at the mercy of the world that is ever changing? Things are unpredictable in the world today. Anything can happen anytime. Only the one who's the master will be able to maintain the weather of the spring Sorry about that. That too is part of the play, of the unpredictable play. So we'll do a quick recap of day 3. So we saw on day 3 that the phenomenon of reincarnation, that is soul's eternal journey, just knowing this phenomena of reincarnation, how does it answer so many questions? It can create so many unnecessary questions if we do not have the answers. And our mind can be filled with why, what, when, where, and how. And so the art of acceptance is what we get to learn from the knowledge. Because through spiritual wisdom, we have a choice to accept, not just because I have to accept it, but to accept because I know why should one accept it. And when it comes from that understanding, then we are truly able to accept, not because I don't have a choice, but because that is the way one understands it to be the right way to do things. And then there is thoughts that arise. We now know that it arises from our awareness. Is my awareness of the car, or is my awareness that I am the driver? If my awareness is that I am the driver and not the car, then I will be able to make decisions in a very alert, awake state. But if I think I am the car, the one that is perishable, then it will lead to insecurity, desperations, desires, stress, all these complex phenomena. And that is why to be awake leads to clarity, security. And that security leads to a lot of peace, calmness, and contentment. So that is why we wanted to just recap day 3. A very beautiful quote from Henry Ford. And it's very relevant for the practice that we are doing here. Whether you think you can or you think you cannot, you are right either way. So if you think you can, then you can. If you think you can't, then you can't, because you're right. You have given yourself this thought as a seed, then you will. If this is the seed, then that's what will be the destiny. So we have to be quite stubborn on truth. Now there are 3 functions. I would like to discuss these 3 functions today of the soul. The soul is the king. The soul here is the king. And the king has 3 different faculties, or you can call the king has 3 different ministers, if you would like to call that ministers. Mind, intellect, and impressions, which is what we call habits, deep-rooted habits, or sanskaras. So mind is the faculty or the function of the soul that we saw and have been seeing from last couple of days, is the mind that is the one that is thinking the thoughts. And intellect is the judge, which will decide which thoughts are right and which thoughts are not right. But today the intellect is sleeping. And as a result, when the mind is, let's say, giving 2 thoughts, should I do this or should I not do this? Intellect today is not awake to make decisions. And so what is happening is that it is bypassing the intellect. So if it's a wrong thought, it's bypassing the intellect and getting put into action, and it's becoming a habit, an impression, deep impression. And that is why we sometimes say habits are hard to die. We are creature of habits. It's because we go on automated mode, and now every thought of the soul is coming from that automated state. It's not even in control of its mind today, because intellect has gone to sleep. And now the thoughts are coming from impressions and they're going back to the mind. So impressions are now, these deep-rooted habits are now taken over, and they are the ones that are creating thoughts in the mind. Now, what we are planning to do here is that the inner kingdom of the soul and the map, we see that the ministers, or the mind, intellect, and sanskaras are the 3 ministers, and the invisible observer is the king. So in the inner kingdom of the soul, intellect is the director, mind is the stage, and the impressions or the deep-rooted habits is the backstage. We'll go a little bit clearer. So mind is the stage on which there are actors. Now these actors are what we call thoughts. Now these actors, once they're on the stage, they don't want to leave the stage. They like being on the stage. And the more you dwell upon a thought, the more it is on the conscious layer of the mind. And it comes into spotlight. At one time, only one thought can be there on the stage of the mind. There can be many quick thoughts in quick succession, But at one time, there can only be one thought at a time. And that is why we see that every thought has its own world of mood. Every thought has its own mood. And this is the backstage. This is the front stage. This is the backstage. On the backstage, now this is where the impressions of past lives, the impressions of our past life in this birth, all these impressions are stored here. We are not even aware of this layer. We call it subconscious mind. We are not aware, but today the subconscious mind is ruling the mind. And why? Because these are not visible to us today, and they've been stored there for quite some time now. These impressions, let's say for example, there's the impression of greed for food. That's the impression, the greed. Now that sanskar or that habit of greed would want to send its thoughts to the main stage. And it wants these thoughts to come and act on the main stage, the conscious mind, which will, I'll give you an example which will help you understand it much more clearly. So for example, you like pumpkin pie. Thanksgiving has just gone by. You like pumpkin pie and you really like it. So one is eating and eating and eating. Now this is the greed sanskar that is there in the subconscious mind. That is the bully mind. What will the bully say? The bully will say a little bit more, maybe. So another thought will come to the main stage. Well, let's just have one more little bit of a piece. You know what? We've been cooped up after COVID for so long. We are meeting. Let's just have a little bit more of a pumpkin pie. And it's a special occasion. It happens just once a year. So let's just have that. So another thought comes from the subconscious mind. And then one goes for another pie. And then if another thought somewhere does come, maybe it is enough. Then somebody will come and say, oh, but you know what? There are not that many people here. So you can even take it for tomorrow and have a little bit more. It's just like, you know, January, you can start your diet from January. You don't need to do it now. If there's a sanskar of greed, habit of greed, then the mind will completely just go for it. It will not even think twice because intellect is sleeping and not able to decide. So mind is not able to think. Intellect is that divine angel, is sleeping this here. And so it's not able to think, right? So this is how we can recognize this bully mind, which is a subconscious mind today, that impression of that food. The more those thoughts come to the mind, the more we put them into action, the stronger the impression and the habit or the sanskara becomes. And the stronger it becomes when it comes into action through the body and our sense organs, more pressure it puts on the mind and more thoughts come to the mind on the conscious layer. So the only way to really stop it is to first understand that this is just a 2-minute pleasure. And we are not that foolish fish who goes for that bait. Now we have this knowledge, so we are the smart fish. There's this story of the foolish fish and the smart fish, right? The foolish fish sees the bait and looks like it's a tasty bait and it goes for it. But this pleasure is just for 2 minutes. And there's only sorrow and pain after that. And in this one knows that there's a hook behind this pleasure and pain, the pleasure and the joy that one is taking from that 2-minute worm or that 2-minute pie eating. There is pain after that. And so the smart fish will not go for that hook. And if somebody even offers that pumpkin pie, it will say, no, thank you. It is not good for me. And it will not take it. It will use its willpower. And that's because that angelic seed is still there in each one of us. It's there. And we really don't want our mind to be taken over by this possessed by this food thoughts. And that is not just food thoughts. It could also be false identities. It could be an identity of let's say a companion. And it's like the soul who thinks I'm the companion of this person is calling this person, and that person is not picking up the phone. Why is he not picking up the phone? Why is he not texting me back? I hope he's okay. Or if he's okay, where is he? What is he doing? Who is he with? All these thoughts will come up from that consciousness of that false identity that one has created. And they will come and start dancing on the layer of the conscious mind. So, how do we change the subconscious? How do we clean the subconscious, the bully mind? As we've been seeing in past couple of days, to clean the subconscious mind, the bully mind, we have to awaken the angel. We need to really awaken the angel. Today, what we are doing is somebody falls in the pit and we fall in the pit with them. Or we try to make their life comfortable in the pit by throwing them food, by throwing them sofa, by throwing them TV or out there in the pit, they can be comfortable. But no, we have to stay out of the pit and we help others come out of the pit. But for that, the director, the intellect has to awaken. And for that, what are we doing? We are taking spiritual knowledge. That is the angelic mind. We are waking up the angel, and that is giving good food to the mind. Good food will lead to good health. And this is the inner work which we can do whilst we are moving around, whilst we are talking, whilst we are walking. We don't need to just sit in one place and do this work. That is why Raja Yoga meditation is an open eye meditation. We also see that the information that we are feeding the mind, is that feeding the bully or is that feeding the angel? Because along with feeding the angel, we also have to starve the bully. The information through news media, the information through five senses, the information through gossip, all of this is feeding the bully. The information of past sad or bad or good experiences, all of them is feeding the bully. The belief systems, our old belief systems, eat, drink, and be merry, anger is natural, stress is natural, all of this is feeding the bully. So we have to really look at it that we can't keep our mind idle, yes, but we can't fill the mind with the information that is going to make the bully stronger. So we have to kind of work on two levels, feed the angel and starve the bully. And that is what we will go in more detail of these things in the next 21 days. And just wanted to touch the subject. So this is what we are working on. So we'll now take 10 minutes of putting this awareness into practice of awakening the director, the intellect, who's making the decisions before they become a habit. The intellect is the director. Today, he is sleeping and intoxicated. With the world overloaded with information. And so the mind is filled with thoughts, creating chaos on the stage. As the director wakes up, he can give directions to the mind. This thought, you can go backstage. This thought, you can be in the spotlight. And this thought, you can sit down, not needed. And this thought, you can wait on the side. And that is why we need spiritual wisdom. To create the weather perfect for the angel to breathe, to grow, to be nourished. It may feel like a winter today, as in the winter time, everything looks dead, not even one leaf on the tree. It's cold and dark. But as the weather changes, comes the spring, and daffodils and flowers grow. In the same area where it was cold and dark, now it's green and lush. Then in another weather, fruits can come out. There is richness. We just have to create the right weather. Seek the right company. It may seem like the soul is bankrupt today, but the seed is there. Maybe bankruptcy of concentration, but the seed is there. Bankruptcy of discrimination, but the seed is there. Bankruptcy of the intellect being powerful, but the seed is there. Are we nourishing it? With the water of attention, with the light of knowledge, because the soul, the king, is asleep and in bondage of the mind today. So it needs that right sunlight to awaken. One does not have to work too hard on analyzing the darkness. One has to be aware it's dark, but all one has to do is turn on the light. Turn on the light of wisdom. This is the natural property of every soul, regardless of what their part is. All the cognitive functions are in the soul. It is this tiny star that we all are, a tiny point of light who's thinking, who's hoping, who's creating thoughts of peace and love. The one who tastes sweet and salt. The one who plays the roles of a president or a scientist or a teacher or a janitor. It doesn't matter what the role is, but there is an invisible divine being of light behind every mask. Who needs to be awakened. when the weather of the 8 billion souls in the world, there is darkness. You just need a couple of few minds with light to bring that ray of a higher perspective, a different way of looking at things. One just has to ask oneself, does the soul behind this mask want to be that one that shines light for the self and for others? Keeping this thought alive and nourished. Keep watering this thought with your attention and let this be on the conscious layer of the mind. Subconscious will get cleaned up as the conscious layer is bombarded with wisdom. Om Shanti.